Hey everyone, this is Randall, and welcome to our next video in the Season 4 update review series. This video is going to be on the Targaryen faction, and just like in Season 3, I am joined by Dennis from the Hits and Crits team. Hey Dennis,
Hey, Randall. Good to be back.
great to have you back. I'm excited for this conversation. Targaryens are one of my favorite factions, um, so for this conversation, we're going to talk about the tactics card changes, then the attachment changes and NCU changes, and then conclude with the combat units. So first off, we'll talk about tactics cards. There were some base deck tactics cards that were changed, but there was also a change to Khal Drogo's assault orders. So we'll start talking about that, but there's not a whole lot to talk about since this was a universal change across the game. Assault orders can basically no longer be used to trigger a ranged attack. So it's strictly melee. But Targaryens are a melee centric army anyway. So I don't think this was really much of a hit to Targaryens. Do you see anything different, Dennis, or is that kind of your opinion too?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Drogo wants it bloody and dirty, and he wants to go melee, so kind of makes sense for the fluff as well. I don't, yeah, I
Yep.
agree. It's not a big change. I do think it devalues Outriders a little in Drogo lists because,
Hmm.
potentially you could have used assault orders on the Outriders and on their range attack, or maybe even on the veterans range attack. So it
Hmm.
devalues at least the Outriders a little bit. But yeah, as you said, most of the time you probably would have used orders on a melee unit anyways, on a melee attack. So
Hmm.
um, yeah, it's not a big nerf, but yeah, I don't think it was necessary though. I mean, why not leave it like that? Was it oppressive? It's a general change. I don't know. Do you think any other factions were, gaining too much momentum with this?
I don't think so. I guess I'm not really sure why the change was made, other than maybe the developers always envisioned it as a melee only card, and
Okay.
um, they just never got around to changing it to be melee only. Kind of like the way they changed Tybalt in Boltons. Everybody was using him in this really fun and interesting way, and then they said, "Oh wait, that
Yeah.
wasn't the way we envisioned him or designed him to be played. So we're gonna take away one of the only fun things you have."
Yeah. True words.
Maybe it's something similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good point about the Outriders and the veterans, especially, excuse me, in maybe rounds one or two, you may not have engaged yet with your
Mhm.
melee units, and the Outriders could potentially get a free shot off, free long range shot. So yeah, that's a good point.
All right.
So we'll move on now to the base tactics card. So first off, Fire and Blood. So this was a card that was triggered off of a charge before and allowed you to reroll charge distance dice. And then after that, if you successfully charged, you could potentially get some melee, some bonuses to your melee. So now this card is strictly a melee attack card that allows you to get some interesting melee abilities. You can get Sundering off of it. You can get Vicious. It already had those,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Those are
now it adds, yeah, instead of re-rolling charge distance dice, now it allows you to re-roll any misses, which I think the misses part is maybe an interesting point. It doesn't say may re-roll any attack dice like it sometimes says in this game. And this card losing charge, the charge wording is kind of paired a little bit with Unstoppable Advance, which also changed
Mhm.
because that card kind of picked up where some of what Fire and Blood lost. Do you want to talk about Unstoppable Advance for us,
Uh,
Dennis?
yeah, sure. So first of all, I think it's kind of genius looking at it because they took st something away from Fire and Blood, made it more flexible because you can play it off of a melee attack. So it wasn't always the charge because there was a problem with Fire and Blood, I feel. It was a good card, don't get me wrong. But I think it was a bit situational if you drew it and nobody was able to charge or you didn't want to charge, because
Hmm.
that can get really dangerous with Targs, obviously. So I think it's a good change. But I was feeling that I kind of missed the charge distance dice reroll because that was really cool to have that as a card
Yeah.
and go, okay, I am like 5. I need a roll of 5 to make that charge. And your opponent is not faced by, he's not gonna make it. And then I play the card and it works. So I was kind of feeling, okay, now that it lost it, that's kind of sad. But then, and I think that's genius on the part of the developers because they knew it was a very useful ability. They put that into Unstoppable Advance in a way. So the uh, the last iteration of that card was not so helpful. Unstoppable Advance in season 3 got changed from, originally being a card where you could just ignore terrain, and then, destroy it while you're moving through it. And I
Yeah.
think it was a staple card for cavalry lists or Drogo lists or whatever, because you could just surprise people with hiding behind terrain and then suddenly charging through it. And people miss that, I guess. Tark players miss that old one, but because it got changed in S3 and it made an AOE weaken effect after a march. And that was not very much liked by the community, I think. I used it maybe once, charging through some enemy units with a dragon, and then you
Hmm.
pop that AOE effect and everybody's weakened, and the dragon's behind some infantry units and is safe even. But that's super situational. And now the change, I think, is really cool because it just encompasses all of these great things. So now Unstoppable Advance is doing, let me just look it up here so I don't say anything wrong. So when a friendly unit performs a charge action uh, after rolling charge, yeah, charge distance dice, this unit may reroll any charge distance dice. So that's still in there. It's just on Unstoppable Advance, and before it was on Fire and
Yeah.
Blood. And then the alternative effect, if you don't have that, if you don't have a charge coming up and you have the card in your hand, or you destroyed something, then when a friendly unit surges forth, you get +3 movement for that surge forth. And after moving, all enemies in short range become weakened. So that AoE weakened effect is still there. It's now combined with a surge forth instead of a march. And that surge forth gains +3 movement. So you're looking at 9 movement after killing something with a melee attack, and then everything in short range becomes weakened. And I think that's really
Hmm.
cool, especially since you can pick which effect you want to do. And yeah, I don't know. What was your take on seeing that? I thought it was genius putting all of this into this new combination of cards.
Yeah, I think it means Unstoppable Advance is much more likely to be played. I know it was a card that I was often just tossing, because if you didn't have the right situation for it, it was cluttering up your hand. And I found the March and Weekend thing just way too situational to use. If you just you almost happen to have the perfect situation when you got that card. But now, you're gonna often have the need or situation where you're gonna want to re-roll a charge distance die. So I think it's much more useful now, and I think being able to surge forth so much faster and then weaken stuff around you could be very useful, especially for Dothraki Cav or even dragons, like you said, because a lot of Targaryen's units are pretty squishy, so you want to make sure that things around you aren't going to hit you as hard.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can see a combo of this, like if you end up killing a unit with a charge,
Uh-huh.
because it plays into that Alpha Strike playstyle. So you kill something uh with a charge and then you can maneuver into position for another attack, move 9, weaken everything. You can pivot because it's a maneuver. The search force is a maneuver. Unlike Overrun, where you now you do a march, but you need to be aligned already. You cannot pivot before the march. So this is really helpful. And that Overrun march would be 12. Now this, including a pivot before you move, is 9. So it's almost as good as a march. I think that's a really cool thing. And you have both of those things. You have Overrun and can say, okay, I either have Overrun or I have Unstoppable Advance in my hand after killing something with a melee. So either I can march 12 or I can do a pivot, then move 9, and then everything becomes weakened. So it's kind of also something that is difficult for your opponent to calculate or anticipate. So
Yeah.
okay, he's going to kill me. Does he have Overrun? Does he have Unstoppable Advance? What's going to happen? So I think that's really cool and makes it a bit less predictable.
Yeah, and I think that's being unpredictable. I think is kind of part of kind of the Targaryen offensive mindset. I think of they're going to strike hard and strike fast.
Yeah, or unpredictable in terms of, okay, how many cards is he going to discard? Is he going to discard the whole hand, or is he going to keep one? Okay, just kidding. I think the deck got better.
Yeah, it got better.
All
Maybe
right.
not. It's not where we would all like it to be, but it's getting there.
Of course.
So the next card is Overrun, and this was also another universal change. So now it allows a march instead of a charge. So it used to just be you can, excuse me.
No worries.
When you search,
I spoiled it a little already
a
talking
little bit,
about
but yeah,
something.
no, but it's an important part of the discussion. So now when you search forth, you can charge or march. So, I think Unstoppable Advance and Overrun also kind of help Targaryens now with some of these like secret mission game modes. Where you might have a mission to put a unit in the deployment zone of your opponent. So, with these cards now, you could kill a unit and then just totally like sprint across the battlefield into your opponent's deployment zone. I know it's very situational to the battlefield and to the game mode and everything, but there are things that could definitely take your opponent by surprise.
Yeah.
So I think Overrun is a good change. I think Chris and I have talked about it in some previous videos with like some commander changes and other commander card changes, but I think it's a good change. What do you think, Dennis?
Yeah, I think so too. It's a good change because it gives you more options, obviously. However, you still need to be aligned. So before and now also you can do a charge after killing something, but you need to be aligned properly. And that I don't know. I don't always I'm not always able to construct that on the battlefield. And after killing something, be already aligned so I can see and have line of sight and have the range to charge. Now you can also march, but still you need to be aligned in such a way that you want to go in that direction. So I feel like it's still a bit situational. You're not going to, move and position just because you have that card in your hand. You're not going to super awkwardly position. So I think a lot of people will still end up just using the search forth because sometimes that march is going to be pretty dangerous as well. It might get you into a position that's too close to the enemy or too close to several enemies instead of just one. So I think it's a good change because it's more flexible, but yeah, could have been better.
Yeah, I guess it is worth noting that the Targaryen version lets you re-roll that charge distance die if you control the maneuver zone. So now you can re-roll that die for your march. So if you if you don't get as far as you might like, you can well I
Yeah.
guess that only works for the charge. It doesn't work for the march. So
Okay.
yeah, I guess you can't. Yeah, you can't roll it. You can't re-roll it for the march. But yeah, so disregard that. But Overrun, I think it's this version of Overrun is still the most powerful Overrun in the game. It's because it does allow that reroll of the charge distance die off of the maneuver zone.
Yeah, true.
Um,
Yeah, and it's one of those instances where controlling the horses becomes important again for targets, which has always been the case, of course.
mhm.
But I feel like, and we're probably going to talk about some more changes that highlight, as far as I'm concerned, that horse zone is getting even more valuable in terms of extra effects and stuff on tactics cards.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last tactics card we'll talk about is Sudden Retreat. So the change here, it's another universal change. Well, semi-universal, I guess. There's a couple of, I think there's maybe one or two other versions in the game. Rob Stark's version also. But this one, it was changed to allow you to re-roll charge the retreat distance die if it's targets your commander's unit. So this is what Rob Stark's card currently says, but this one is more general because it's any commander, not just a specific commander. It's a good change. Sudden Retreat is it's never been one of my favorite cards because it's like you're using it oftentimes reactively. You know it's okay. It's not helping me kill things necessarily. But I think it's a good change. It's a fine change. What do you think, Dennis?
Yeah, I agree. It's not a major change. It can help to keep your commander's unit alive, which of course is always important. In game modes also like, Clash of Kings or the new game mode, something butchery. What is it?
Yeah, banners and
Banners,
butchery, I think.
banners and butchery. Thank you. So in those modes, of course, you need your commander alive, otherwise you're going to be hard pressed scoring a lot of points. So there it's
Mhm.
really helpful. It's kind of sad that Drogo can't use it though, because you have to throw it out of the deck when you use Drogo as a commander, because I think for him
Yeah.
and Drogolis it would be really cool.
Mhm.
If something attacks you that's that's then activated and you can retreat, and then maybe you're a starting player, or you can have an assault orders and then can charge in again with rerolls.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Drogo doesn't have it. He doesn't retreat. He has only he only
Yeah.
goes forward, not
Single-minded
reverse.
determination to kill things.
Yeah, absolutely. All
All
right.
right, so that wraps up the tactics card discussion. So we'll move on to attachments. There's just two attachment changes, and they're pretty similar because they're changed for the same reason. It's surrounding the ability battle scars. So we'll start off with Belwas, who was kind of historically one of the least taken commanders and units out there. This isn't his commander version, but it's his attachment version. Hopefully, this means he'll get some more play. What do you think, Dennis? What's your take on battle scars and the Belwas version specifically?
Yeah, I think it's great. So Belwas now has battle scars as the same in the other factions and units. I'm just gonna read it out real quick, so we're on the same page, everybody, even though you've talked about it before in another video, I think. So each time this unit performs a melee attack before rolling attack dice, choose one. For each destroyed rank in this unit, choose +1. And you can choose vicious, you can re-roll attack dice, and you can choose that the unit rolls its highest attack die value. So basically, if you've lost 2 ranks, then you can do all 3 of those: vicious, re-rolls, and highest attack die value. And that's a great combo. It makes battle scars much better than before, because it was
Hmm.
not as strong. Like, these are all really strong abilities, especially the rerolls are so important. And highest attack die value, as I said, if you've already lost a couple of ranks, you still roll those 7 or 8 or 6 die. So that's really cool. I think especially with some of the Targ infantry units that are a bit squishy, you're quickly with Belvas, you're immediately thinking of Stormcrow mercenaries, who are
Hmm.
quite cheap, who have adaptive, who can take him basically for free, so their point
Yeah.
cost doesn't increase. by taking a 1 point attachment like Belwas. And you know, they're a little squishy. We'll talk about them later a bit. But they will lose ranks quickly if they are engaged. So for them, that's really, really cool and makes them hit harder for a longer time throughout the game and pose a bigger threat. So yeah, what do you think? What other units do you see him in now as an attachment, maybe?
Yeah, so this was one of my favorite changes of this patch for Targaryens, which I don't know if that says more about my like lack of judgment or more about, you know, the changes that were actually made to the faction. But I think this is a pretty exciting change for Targaryens because we have in the faction some somewhat mediocre infantry units, I would say. Or infantry units that just need assistance because they're not getting helped all that much by the deck. They're getting more help as the patches go on, but they're still in, you know, they still need some backup. So I think Belwas is it's great because you have choices. You know, they're giving players choices. It's not all dependent now on how many times people have attacked you. It's you from the get-go, you've got choices. I think like you said, it can help some squishy units. I think Pit
Mhm.
Fighters is actually an interesting
Oh, cool.
choice
Yeah.
here. Synergizes with, I mean, Belwas is a pit fighter, so it's cool for fluff reasons. But
Yep.
you know,
And
he can help
you're
them
a
get
lore guy.
more.
You
Yeah,
like the
you
lore.
know, I pretend to be a lore guy,
You are.
just so I can get upset about, you know,
Mhm.
nerd rage things.
That's great. I mean, that's why we're doing this hobby, right? Just, you know, we can't rage in real life because,
Yeah, we can't rant at people about, you know, lore inconsistencies in real life without being laughed at. But on the internet, we can be, you know, heroes. But yeah, Pit Fighter's cool because they have precision, so he can give them rerolls to fish for
Mhm.
more precision hits. You know, and the Pit Fighters can make a unit panicked by throwing out the kind of rainbow of tokens out there. So the panic token synergizes with the vicious.
Right.
You know, I think also him going into pikemen is good. You know, he can make pikemen an actual offensive unit. Pikemen have no
Mhm.
offensive keywords at all. You throw him into pikemen, and now they've got vicious, they've got rerolls potentially on 7 dice. So I think no matter what where you put him really in Targs, he makes that unit a much more dangerous unit. I mean, you throw him in Brazen Beasts, and now Brazen Beasts have a whole bunch more attack keywords. You know, they already have
Oh yeah.
two choices. Yeah, you know, they already have the crit blow and +1 die or the turn off abilities, and now they can have one of those choices and one of these other three choices. So I think no matter where you put him, really in Targaryens, he's going to bring value. So I'm excited to experiment with him and see what people do with him.
Yeah. Amazing. And that's really cool with the pikemen, for example. I think that's a really interesting idea and very good matchup and synergy there, especially since pikemen aren't picked that much because they lack the oomph.
Yeah.
You know, they lack the
Hmm.
punch. Um, they're good as a defensive unit, but yeah, not a big threat. You can just
Yeah.
move around them. And now with Belvas, you might even be able to play them more aggressively and you know and make sure that your opponent can't ignore them as much as before.
Yeah.
Makes
And
them
with
an 8 point unit though.
makes him
Mm-mm.
an 8 point unit. Yeah. It's a hard sell.
Yeah.
But you know, you think about it, you think about set for charge, it makes them an even less appetizing target because if somebody charges you, then you're set for charge. You could give that set for charge essentially like a charge bonus, you know, because you're gonna get rerolls off of it. So someone charges you, and you're gonna very likely get 7 hits back at them right before they can even hit you. So
Yeah.
I think it makes pikemen a lot more dangerous, potentially.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. That's it's exciting. The other attachment is Kaholo, one of the Blood Riders. This one I'm a little less excited about. It's a 2 point attachment, you know, so it's an expensive attachment, and you're you're never going to get all of the three options because cavalry only have 2 ranks. So I think you're not quite getting as much out of it as you would from an infantry attachment. Um, you know, I think you've only got so many units also that you could really put them in. in Targaryens. You know, you're looking at maybe Screamers and bring Screamers up to an 8-point unit. It would be a strong 8-point unit, no doubt.
Yep, can't be
There's
beaten.
also Hedge Knights, maybe. But I don't know. I'm thinking I'm more on the Belwas train here than I am on the Kaholo one. I'd like to see what he does, but he's a 2-point attachment. It's a hard sell, I
Yeah.
think, for me. I don't know. What do you think, Dennis? You more excited about him or Belwas?
Yeah, I'm not as excited about Cahol. I mean, in all of these Blood Rider attachments are great, but they're too expensive for 2 points. And I don't know if we'll ever see them used as much. And it's such a shame because they're fluffy, they have these great characters.
Yeah,
The art is amazing. The sculpts are super different. And if you see painted miniatures of those Blood Riders, they just look awesome. You
yeah,
can use them, as a unit very well now with Drogo, but their attachment versions for 2 points, it's just too much. In some lists you will use some of them, but that's really a shame. And I guess the whole point system would need to change in order, to have them be like 1.5 points. And if we'd not have 40
yeah,
points, but like a 200 points instead or something, then you could kind of do that. But with the system now, they would be way too good for 1 point. They're too expensive for 2 points. So that's their biggest trouble. And yeah, his battle scars change doesn't help as much as you said, especially since the unit can only you lose one rank ever. So yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting. Maybe with combined, like both of them, also Belwas and Cahol combined with Xaro have a nice
Mm,
synergy maybe because you don't need to wait in an infantry unit for it to have just one rank. You can have it on 2 ranks, so they lost one rank, and you can pick two of the battle scars effects. You would pick vicious and rerolls, and then with Xaro influence, you would get that last or that missing dice value back, and we'll end up rolling highest attack die value anyways. So that's a nice synergy, I guess, and works well with would work well with the Koholo attachment if it wasn't that expensive. Yep.
yeah, good points.
All right.
So that's it for the attachments. We'll move on to the NCUs. There were
Mhm.
some pretty big overhauls here in the NCUs, so we'll get right into it. I think the biggest one to talk about, well, I guess biggest in size, maybe at least, is Illyrio Mopatis. So Illyrio, I mean, he's pretty much a must have, must take, auto include for just about any Targaryen list out there. And I think he got nerfed pretty much into oblivion in this patch, in my opinion. And maybe that was justified. I think the developers seem to be doing these kind of drive-by shootings on certain units and NCUs that they think are getting used too much, just to shake up the meta a little bit, I think, and let other NCUs have a time in the spotlight. So I'm okay with the change because it gives me more options. Because before, every list would start out with Illyrio as one of the
Mhm.
NCUs. So I'm okay with it. I'd like to see how people react to it, what else they're taking. I think another NCU or two on this list might be taking those spots. But Illyrio now, instead of being able to zone replace every single round if he wants to, he now only can do it twice a game. So he has two orders. I think maybe three would have probably been a better number, but like I said, I think this was just a drive-by execution of Illyrio, just to kind of take him off the board for one season of the game and just see how Targaryen players react to it. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. What do you think about this one, Dennis?
Yeah, I agree. I was shocked at the beginning and thought, why isn't it three? But I completely agree with what you said. If he had those three tokens, those three order tokens on him, could use it 3 times, then it wouldn't have been a big nerf because
Hmm.
honestly, you would probably only replace that a maximum of 3 times per game, because sometimes you'll need something else instead of a replace. So I think yeah, what you said is spot on. They wanted to get him out of the auto include situation. And I agree. I think it's good. I'm always for, trying new stuff, but I'm also a person who's sometimes stuck in comfort zones. So, you would always include Illyrio if he had those 3 tokens now. And now some other NCUs can shine, like Mirri, for example.
Mm, yeah, for sure. And we'll talk about Mirri in just a moment. I think we'll save her for last because I think she's one of the most exciting ones to talk
Mhm.
about. But first, we'll talk about Hizdahr Loraq. So he when he first came out, he was 5 points. Nobody ever took him at 5 points. Then he moved to 4 points, and people still really didn't take him very much at all. His old ability, he got an additional kind of effect depending on which zone he took, and now he's been overhauled a little bit. His effects are mostly still the same, but now he kind of has a universal applicability, I guess, or universal effect for all of your NCUs. So now his zone specific abilities can be essentially used by no matter by any of your NCUs. So if any of your NCUs takes the tactic zone, for example, you can draw, one fewer card to put out one additional condition token. So it doesn't matter, and it doesn't even matter if he activates. So you can take him as your pass NCU, and he just will
Mhm.
always have an effect on the tactics board, whether he's doing anything or not. The one effect that changed was his wealth zone effect. It used to be that when he claimed the wealth zone and healed the unit, all of your units around that unit were also healed for 1. Now it's just 1 additional unit is healed for 1, which I think is fair considering it's no longer tied specifically to him. I'm still not seeing this guy being picked over some other NCUs right now, but I think he will see a little bit more play, but I don't think he's a top pick. I think there is some play for him maybe in like a Piat pre mill kind of deck, maybe some kind of
Oh,
meme
yeah.
options. Um, I don't know. What do you think, Dennis? You think he's going to be relegated still to the meme list category, or you think you'll see a wider play than that?
Nah, I think he's still in a bit of a weird place, as you've hinted at. Not sure if he's meme, probably. Um, his effect on the letters, I think I like. If any of your NCUs claims the letters zone, then you can draw 1 for your tactics out of place in a condition token on the targeted enemy. I think I always liked using that when I played him,
Hmm.
because Targaryens had a hard time often to use or to dish out condition tokens. Now with some of the other NCUs that are available, that condition token generation is maybe easier for Targs. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's a bit difficult. But I really like your the point that you made about Piat Pre and mill lists, because now, even if Piat Pre claims the House of the Undying or some other unit, you still get to discard one of your opponent's tactics cards. So that's really cool. And I also like your point that you said now he is an NCU who doesn't care where he is on the tactics board, or even if he is on the tactics board at all. So other
Yeah.
NCUs like Varys, for example, are something similar. And it's often helpful to have one of those NCUs who doesn't even care if he's on the tactics board or not, especially if you and your opponent have 3 NCUs, obviously. But then
Hmm.
again, talking about Varys, you would possibly pick Varys over him every time. I don't know, unless you have Pied Pre, maybe.
All right, and then Xaro is the next NCU. So Xaro got a complete overhaul. A very, very interesting ability. Do you wanna lead off the discussion on that one, Dennis?
Yeah, sure. So now Xaro starts with 2 order tokens on him, and when he claims bags, you can place 1 more order token on him, so you can kind of regenerate those tokens. And so every time a unit attacks, if it's a range attack or a melee attack, if it's your unit or the opponent's unit, doesn't matter. You can spend one of those order tokens from Xaro and target that combat unit that just attacked or is attacking. And you can then choose one of 2 things. If it's your own unit, you can treat them as having +1 rank for attack dice. And if it's an enemy unit, they're treated as -1 rank for attack dice. And this is really, really good for Xaro. And I feel like he has one of the more impactful changes for Targs and is going to be picked a lot, I believe, because it's super flexible. It helps Targs with their squishiness, because you can, if someone attacks, you can take off 1 rank. And it also, like, when your units got hit, you can make them stronger again to really kill something to get this alpha strike potential back. And it's super flexible, and you can recharge his tokens. And if he claims bags, you just place an order token on him, and you still resolve the effect of bags, so you still heal. So it's not a replace or anything.
Yeah.
So it's just, it gives you a lot of more momentum. It doesn't stop the momentum at all if you take bags, because you get that order back, and then in that same round, you can use his influence to have that +1 rank or -1 rank. And the obvious benefit here is for cavalry units, of course, because they drop off with attack dice really quick when they lose that 1 rank. And if he gives them +1 rank, it's amazing. And vice versa, if a cavalry unit attacks you, you can take off that 1 rank and make them really hit like a wet noodle. So yeah, really good change for Xaro.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's probably most valuable, like you said, in Cav lists. He's going to be killer in Drogo lists because, like you said, Dothraki's attack dice really drop off. Besides the Blood Riders, all the other ones go from like a 7 to a 4. So yeah, Xaro can help them to hit hard all the time. He also kind of functions as like a bribery on demand kind of a
Mhm.
ability. So, if somebody's attacking you, you can almost like bribe them for 1 turn, or bribe them for that 1 attack to make their, like you said, make their attack hit much weaker. So I think he's definitely, I don't think he's a unit you're going to take all the time, but I think we're going to see him in a lot more lists than we did before, especially those Drogo lists, where he's going to be very, very valuable as kind of an insurance policy against taking spike damage to your cab units. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that one. Another one I'm probably the most excited about is Mirri Maz Duur. So along with Belwas, I think she is the most exciting change in this patch for me. So I think she's I'm not going to say she's a auto include at this point, but I think probably she's taking the place of Illyrio. So wherever Illyrio left, and I think now Mirri Maz Duur is taking his spot. So she always heals 1 wound when she claims a zone, just like she always has, and she still has her once per game zone replace to bring an attachment back. But now, in addition, she could choose to zone replace to give an enemy unit a panicked and weakened token. So now she could potentially, over the course of an entire game, she could heal 6 wounds and hand out 12 tokens if she does a zone replace every round. I mean, it's insane. You think about Illyrio by comparison. He can heal 6 wounds over the course of a game, and he can hand out 2 tokens over the course of a game. So I'm kind of struggling to think of lists where I wouldn't want to bring her, just because of how flexible she is and how useful throwing out a weakened token is anytime you want to, even if you have to zone replace. She's gonna heal 1 wound, and then token bomb something potentially. So I think she's just such a strong NCU now, that I
Mhm.
think she's going to see play in a ton of lists. What do you think, Dennis?
Yeah. Yeah. Everything I wanted to say, I think you've said. Maybe one question. You know if she had that bringing an attachment back? She had that before, right? Was it only for infantry though? I'm unsure. I'm just thinking about that now, if that was changed to be able to include cav attachments.
I think it was always able to, let's see. So it used to say target one friendly combat unit, attach one previously destroyed friendly non-commander attachment to that unit, replacing a model as usual, but ignoring the
Mhm.
attachment limits. So
So
I think
same.
it says the same thing now. Let me
Yeah.
let me double
Yeah, it
check.
does. Let me just, yeah, I
Yeah,
just
is that
checked.
what it
Yeah.
still
No, it's
says?
the same. Okay.
Okay, yeah. I think the cab question I think was more like a rules or FAQ kind of question. I'm not sure if it ever got answered, but I think
Hmm.
the consensus was that you could bring a cab unit back, but it would just bring it back as a one wound, or it wouldn't bring it back as three wounds. It would bring it back and replace a
Uh,
model.
yes.
Um, but it wouldn't give you three wounds back. I think
Yeah.
that's what
Okay.
I've heard.
Maybe I'm mixing that up. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's really good. And as I mentioned before, the token generation is absolutely amazing. And um, there are other in other factions there are NCUs that generate tokens like Pycelle, for example, right? And this is something that Targs now have. And Pycelle was in the old version was an auto include, and now she has something similar. So that's really good. Great change, and
Yeah,
such a good NCU. I'm not quite sure about the heal though. I think that there are situations where you might want to have Illyrio's 3 wound heal because it's more of a burst heal instead of her
right.
kind of trickle heal.
Hmm.
But that those tokens, I mean, having a unit that attacks you weaken is easily worth the lack of 2 wounds that you heal, because a unit that attacks you and is weakened is probably gonna cause, I mean, it depends, of course, but yeah, I'm not calculating this now, but I think it's definitely worth at least as much as 2 wounds that you lose in comparison between Illyrio and Mirri and their heals. So yeah, I think it's really, really strong.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. I think this is one of the big wins from this patch is Mirri Maz Duur.
Mhm.
So finally, we're going to move on to combat units. One of the big changes is to Drogo's Blood Riders. Now, Drogo has been consistently one of the most competitive commanders in Targs, and when he got his Blood Riders unit, I think everybody was super pumped to put him in there. He's yeah, that's his kind of retinue unit. But his Blood Riders have had kind of a tumultuous history since release of being released too strong and then becoming too weak, and now getting this change. Do you want to walk us through the change to the Blood Riders, Dennis, and what you think about them, and if you think that it's going to increase their pick rate, or what the effect is going to be?
Yeah, I really like the change. I mean, obviously, I really love the Blood Riders. That's Drogo is my favorite commander. He's arguably the strongest Targaryen commander, and having him in this unit that's made for him, this is where he belongs. So that's
Hmm.
great from a lore perspective, but also just it's just cool. Um, so now so they still have their war cry that got changed in the last update, I think. Would that remain the same?
If you Yeah, I think the War Cry originally it got changed in like season 2 or something,
1 and 2
to
already.
go from 2 tokens to just one.
Yeah, okay. And that was a universal change, right? So
Yeah.
now what happened is they got the ability called Blood Riders Eric. So that's their melee is called Blood Riders Eric now, and it gives Sunring and Vicious built in. So every time they attack, they also automatically have Sunring and Vicious. And this is the biggest change for them. This is amazing. They didn't have Sundering before. It helps Targs to kill. It helps them against hard, targets with high armor. And you have Vicious there, which synergizes amazingly well with Drogo, who has to be in the unit. Otherwise, you can't take the Blood Riders as a full unit. So Drogo is in there anyways, and he causes an auto wound with Expert Duelist. So you definitely cause a panic test, and that panic test
Hmm.
will be vicious now as well. And their high mobility will make it more likely to get into a flank. So there's another -1 to morale to the panic test. If you get in the rear, it's a -4 with vicious and the -2 from charging in the rear. So that's just amazing. Plus, Warcry makes a unit panicked, which again synergizes with the vicious and the panic test and Drogo's auto wound. So this is just great. This is what I wanted for Blood Riders. They did lose on armor. They had a 3+ armor save. Now they have a 4+ armor save. And I think that's all the changes, right? I mean, some of the
Yeah.
wording changed, but
Hmm.
or some of the names of the abilities or something. But this is really great, and I'm very, very happy with that change, and I will play the hell out of them because I love them. All right. What is your
Yeah,
take?
no, I think it's a I think it's a good change. It's gonna ensure that Drogo is in these guys a lot more often. I think people were taking Drogo and Screamers a lot in season three, and I think that was just kind of disappointing for people that Drogo is joining this kind of just standard unit of Dothraki cavalry instead of like his actual boys, his Blood Riders. So the developers kind of brought the Blood Riders closer to what makes the Screamers so good, by giving them the
Hmm.
Sundering.
Yes.
Um, they were a couple more points more expensive, but I think what you're getting for those 2 points is probably worth it, unless you're really trying to skew a list towards something else. You really need those 2 points in
Yeah.
your list for something else, then
Sure.
maybe you go with the Screamers. But I think 9 times out of 10 now you're gonna put Drogo in the Blood Riders. So I'm happy to see it. I think he needs to be in those Blood Riders just for it's Drogo. He's got to be in the Blood Riders. So I'm happy that they got tuned up to the point where
Yeah.
um, it's a much easier decision to put Drogo in them. And like you said, there's the panic synergy, which is cool. I hadn't even really thought about it. But yeah, you're gonna guarantee a vicious panic test every time now because of the expert duelist wound. So yeah, I think that's great. I think people should be afraid of Drogo's Blood Riders and
Oh yeah.
should be taking a vicious panic test from them. So yeah, that's cool.
Things are as
Um,
they should be again.
yeah, we're moving closer to the perfect world, the perfectly balanced
Yeah.
game that strikes all the game balance. It's perfect game balance and perfect lore balance. We're getting there. We're not there yet, but we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, you stay optimistic, Randall. I like that about you. All right.
Try to.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, so moving on, we got the Hrothgar. So
mhm.
this is like for me, this is one of the most divisive changes in season four for Targaryens. I'm still not sure. I'm not fully decided on which side of this debate I'm on. I really liked Hrothgar's at 5 points. I liked them at a 4+ armor save. I could throw them at something and expect them to take one big punch probably and still survive. Now these guys, they went from a 4+ armor save to a 6+ armor save. They still have only 6 wounds. Their morale went from a 4+ to a 5+, and their attack die value went from a 6 to a 5. So, know, I see these changes and I ask myself why. Why did the developers make this change? And I'm guessing that it's back to like kind of their design intention. Maybe they never intended these guys to really be brawlers and never intended for them to stay in a fight. So, they want these guys to just be fast movers, flankers, finishers, maybe objective holders. And
Mm,
at 4 points,
yeah.
maybe that's good enough. Maybe at 4 points, these guys are a unit that you could put on an objective, hopefully not get attacked. Maybe they're a they're a late game objective holder, after most of the game has already kind of happened around them. But yeah, I'm still not decided on these guys. I would like to try them at 4 points, but I'm still a little disappointed in that loss of that 4+ armor save. What do you think, Dennis? Are you disappointed or are you excited about the change?
Yeah, I'm also a bit unsure. I did play them the other day, actually. Played it, or was it a week ago or something? A two Raqqa list. I've seen a couple of those, so I wanted to try it out, and I was underwhelmed because it's just one attack and they're dead, basically. With this meta now, with a lot of damage output in many lists, they're just dead from one. Someone sneezes at them, they die.
Yeah,
And it's
or
also
even
kind of
Varys
sad. I
auto
mean,
hits.
there's two freaking white lions charging at you, and you sneeze at them, and they run away or lie down and sleep. I don't know. Okay, well, but you're the law and nerd rage guy, so I'm not going to take that away from you. But yeah, I was underwhelmed. And I think I just don't like the play style of having units like that and just put them on an objective and just let them stay there. I don't think it's the Targ play style. On the other hand, I think reducing them by 1 point puts them into a different bracket of units, and Targs didn't have that many 4 point units that could do a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
Freedmen are no, the Freedmen are 3 points.
Prisoner three,
Yeah,
3 points,
so
and
yeah,
Jorah's 4 points.
Jorah's four, so it's only Jorah they're kind of competing with, but not really. So I think that kind of fills a niche in Targs where we didn't have a lot of choices. But I'm still unsure if you don't get more value out of other stuff. But if you have those 4 points left and they're a cheap activation, they can stay on a token. They can claim a token surprisingly in round two if if you were a starting player in round one and then you deploy them and just deploy them on a token on the flank edge. But yeah, the if your opponent has fast units like cavalry, they are in danger, and you need to hide them, and that's kind of, I don't know, kind of weird. I have to play
Hmm.
around with them more, maybe.
Yeah, and then this game, there's so many like auto hit
Mm,
mechanics out there. Varys is taken so often, even still after he got a slight nerf in this patch. You could see these guys dying after a couple of Varys tokens. You throw 3 hits at these guys, and at a 6+, they're probably going to fail all of them,
yeah, they will.
and then they're just dead. You could have them on the other side of the battlefield. They won't even have fought all game, but they just die.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, they're a risk, big risk now. All right, so
Well, yeah. You probably have to
um,
run away when, as soon as something comes, you have to let them run away and then just hope that the fact that your opponent moves a unit closer to them, maybe turned that unit, that you can get a benefit out of that. But I don't think it's a lot. Okay. Yeah. Should we
and
move
now the
on?
last so moving on, we have Dothraki veterans. This was kind of just a slight change. So their armor got better. They went from a 5+ to a 4+. So they're now the same armor as the Blood Riders. And better armor is good. I think it's a good change. I still don't think that they're going to be taken all that much. Yeah, I don't even think we should talk too much about them. But what do you think, Dennis? You think it's going to
Yeah.
change their pick rate at all, or?
I don't know. It gives them a little more survivability, but I think the biggest problem for them is the 8 points. As you said, I think they should be 7 points. We don't have a 7 point cavalry, so make them 7 points, see what happens.
I like it. Just just try it out and see what happens. Don't just give us big nerfs. Give us some big buffs and see what happens.
Yes.
Um,
And then we
Freedmen. Do you
have,
want to talk about Freedmen?
yeah,
They got a slight change, but maybe a significant change. What do you think?
Yeah, it's just a small change. They got +1 to their movement. Now they have, instead of 5 movement speed, they have 6 now. I think
Hmm.
it's a nice change, nothing big, kind of a quality of life change. They have to be in short range of another unit without disorganized. Is it the right one? No, what is it called? I don't remember.
Let's see, what is it? It's
Not insignificant.
untrained masses. So
Untrained
it's
masses, yeah.
mhm.
So they have to be in short range of a unit without that keyword at the end of the round. Otherwise, they get destroyed. So they always need to be in short range of your regular units. And since you have a lot of fast units like Unsullied, even so even the infantry units are fast, and of course the cavalry, it helps them to keep up, I guess. And it also helps them, with getting where they need to be quickly enough, or maybe even quicker than your opponent. So if you want to use them to charge block, for example, let the opponent charge this really, really cheap unit, and therefore protect your more valuable units, and not engage them. That's value you get out of Freedmen, and with the 6 movement, they can probably more easily fulfill that role. You can march 12 with them and just be where they need to be. Also, the charge is easier now, and they do hit surprisingly well every time I played them and I
Oh yeah.
successfully charged someone. Everybody around the table was surprised. What? They just caused I don't know, 5 or 6 wounds. Like, what happened?
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's a good change. Nothing too big. That's it.
Yeah. I think Marcelin is the clear winner here from this
Mhm.
change. I've always really liked Friedman. I don't take them outside of Marcelin lists. I think I can count on one hand the number of games I've played with them outside of a Marcelin list. But like you said, these guys they always surprise your opponent, because they can hit surprisingly hard. Um, and then now, especially with like, we have Fire and Blood, you can give them Sundering Vicious. You can do all kinds of kind of cool stuff with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, 6 movement speed is nice. Like you said, they can keep up with your units. They could also potentially march through one of your units. I'm trying to do the mental math on the depth of a unit tray and if they can march all the way through. But I think they might
Mhm.
be able to march all the way through one of your units,
Yeah, I think it's five and a
potentially.
half. I think it's 5.5 for an infantry tray.
Hmm.
Uh, 5.5 inches. So yeah, that will work now.
Yeah, so that would yeah, I mean, so that could be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean it's a good change. Not a huge change, but it's a good change. I think it's going to mostly affect Marcelin, maybe make him a little bit better. But yeah, good change.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
moving on to the last 3 changes, these are all Stormcrow changes. So they're all shared with the neutral faction, also. But we'll start off with the archers. So the archers got loyalty through coin. This is a new ability for them, but not new to the game. So this gives them +1 morale, +1 armor when you control the wealth zone. And I think it's kind of cool for them. We've seen more Stormcrow archers with Jokin lists in this version of the game. In the last version also. It's kind of cool here because you can kind of double up on the bonus that you get from the controlling the wealth zone because
Yeah,
these guys
absolutely.
give you I believe it's what Sundering. Let me double check, make sure I'm not
Yeah, it's correct.
fake news here.
It's
Yeah, so they
thundering.
yeah they give Sundering with the
Hmm.
wealth zone. Now they'll also give you +1 defense and morale. So if you control the wealth zone, these guys go to a 4+6+, which isn't terrible. Um, so I think it's a good change for them. I don't think it's anything earth shattering. What do you think? Do you have any other
No,
insight on this?
no, not really. I mean, the +1 to defense rolls is nice, but you don't want to be engaged with them anyways. Um,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so many units now have Sundering. I mean, I
Hmm.
love that Targ's units got more access to Sundering now, but I feel like the rest of the roster of factions was also sprinkled with Sundering and other
Yeah.
keywords. I'm a bit worried about, keyword creep. Kind of everybody gets a lot of keywords, and then you have some power
Hmm.
creep going on, but we'll see. So yeah, uh, you'd probably take Outriders instead of
Hmm.
them, unless you're playing Jokin or Dario or something.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, Outriders for me are, yeah, 9 times out of 10, I'm taking Outriders over these
Mhm.
guys, unless, like you said, I'm going with the Jokin list or something.
Yeah,
Because I mean they're the same cost and just way more maneuverable and
yeah. Maybe
uh
if they did the same trick that the Freedmen did, because the Freedmen noticed they're just wearing rags and can sprint, so they're up to 6. So maybe if the Stormcrow
yeah,
archers could go to 6, that would be interesting. But yeah.
yeah, maybe another patch or two. We see the dervishes. We're moving on to the dervishes. The dervishes have been like progressively tweaked for many patches now, just to try to get people to play them. Now they went from a 6+ morale now to a 5+ morale. So
Mm.
they're kind of officially in like the elite morale bracket. They've now been admitted to the elite break room of all the of units. You know, Stormcrow dervishes are the only unit, the only neutral unit that I don't own. Um,
Mm.
and they're the only neutral unit I've never thought about buying, which is kind of sad, I guess. And I still don't think this makes me want to take them. I think they might see a little more play now, maybe in certain lists, but I just don't think it's a big enough change.
Mm.
Are you looking for your unit of
Yeah,
dervishes?
I was looking for my sealed box of them. I haven't used them yet. I couldn't find it right now, but it's somewhere up here. Yeah, so I haven't used them at all. I've seen some
Mm,
Jokin lists that use them now.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure. They don't synergize well with the tactics deck, I guess, or other unit. But they're a cool unit. I think I feel like we talked about them also last time they were changed a little and came to the same result. They're cool, but
yeah,
not really. It's not that helpful, and they won't see as much play as the Stormcrow mercenaries.
yeah. And they're a 7 point unit, and there's a lot of competition for a 7 point unit in this faction.
Mm.
But yeah, like you said, we'll move on to the Stormcrow mercs, and they're kind of the belle of the Stormcrow ball, so to speak, in the Targaryen faction. What do you think about the change to them, Dennis?
Yeah, I think the changes that they went from a 7+ morale to 6+, which is good because that was really
Hmm.
their biggest weakness, I feel. They were really susceptible to panic damage, also just panic tests from the crown zone, just getting crown zapped, and
Yeah,
you would sometimes maybe use them as a relatively cheap objective holder, and then someone could just crown that zap them when they had already activated possibly and lose the token and just get wounds throughout the game with anything that causes panic tests or so it's difficult like or Ruse NCU
hmm.
who could do that as well. um
I'm still here, by the way.
yeah,
So
I don't
can you
see
hear me?
you. Yeah, you're back.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
we're having a big storm here, and my power
Wow.
just went out. So, there it goes again.
All
All
right,
right. So,
I can still
yeah.
see you. It's just you're
All
in the
right.
dark.
I'm in the dark. Okay. So, we'll finish
Yeah,
this video. I am in the dark.
I'm
You
here.
can maybe see my logo. My logo will be the brightest thing here.
That's good.
And we'll finish the video. I'm now my Wi-Fi is gone. Oh, there we go. Okay, we'll finish. So tell me what you think about finish up on Stormcrow mercs, and we'll take
Yeah,
this as a sign, from the seven that we need to
we
speed things
do.
along.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a good change for them, and they've been picked, and they're now even better and even more reliable. So good change for the Mercs.
Mhm. All right. Well, I agree with you. I wish people could see how much I agree with you.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a
I
good
will
change. It's a
I
good
will just
change.
do
We
some moves.
In the Targaryen faction, we run mercs a lot. I think we mentioned before, but the Belwas change. I think Belwas is a good home, has a good home in the mercs. And yeah, no, I'm happy with that change. Overall, I'm very happy with the changes to the Targaryen faction.
Yeah.
I there's a lot of changes here to really like. There's some that are going to shake the faction up a bit. You know, Illyrio going away is a big one. The Hrakkars is still one I'm not too sure about.
Mm,
But we've got some really good stuff, I think, in this patch.
yeah.
What are your kind of final thoughts on the patch before we close it out, Dennis?
Yeah, same with me. A lot of interesting things now in Targs, and a lot of things you can play around with and see what sticks. And I think the faction got a little stronger. I don't see it on stats yet, so I don't know. I don't check it like every week, but they were doing okay in the middle-ish, but now they're kind of back to the bottom a bit. So I don't know.
Hmm.
I just guess that a lot of the other factions got stronger as well. So they can't monopolize in terms of competitiveness yet. If you look at some of the big tournaments that feature a lot of Targ factions, a lot of Targ players, they still win or at least do well in big tournaments. So yeah,
Hmm.
I think it's fine, and I'm happy.
I'm happy too. All right. Well, I'm happy about that, but not happy about the fact that my house just lost power. So
Yeah, you fix that.
yeah, I'm gonna go attend to that. And in the meantime, I appreciate you joining me, Dennis. It was great to pick up where we left off after our season 3 discussion.
Every
And
time.
I'm sure we'll do this again in season 5, probably in the next 4 or 5 months.
Yep.
And yeah, so I have nothing else to add other than I'm gonna run down and make sure that the house isn't on fire. And until next time, this is Randall
And Dennis,
signing off. You can't see
signing
me
off.
saluting, but I'm saluting in
I'll
the dark.
I'll do a
Okay.
double salute.
All right. Thank
One
you.
for you.
Thank you.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you all. All right. Thanks, Dennis.
Okay. Bye-bye.